Hello and welcome to another Niagara video series. My name is Charles Johnson, lead trainer and technical engineer at Lynxspring, and today we're going to talk about hierarchies. Now, I say it's a new way of navigation, and it technically is for Niagara 4. Hierarchies have been around since the inception of N4, and they are quite a bear. A lot of people still don't really understand them. And therefore they actually don't use them. But let's talk about what hierarchies are, the types of hierarchies, and maybe some tips and tricks that will help you understand how to build better hierarchies. So what are hierarchies? Well, hierarchies are a navigation system that will dynamically update based upon the components, tags, and relations that are added or removed from the system. It uses NQL queries to define the tree structure. And again, while nav files can still be used, you still have to change them manually. So that's really the big thing for me. I want to be able to create some navigation for a customer, and all I have to do is add a component to a system. If I need to, like for example, if I need to add schedules, I'd rather just add the schedule and then it automatically populate rather than adding the schedule, then having to go to the nav file and manually update it that way. Hierarchies can be used for that. And so right here, this is an example of a hierarchy right here that shows actually the devices and points. So pretty much it's going to take anything that is a device and then have the proxy points underneath it. Remember, proxy points are points that are a representation of something outside of the system. So what do you need to build them? Well, the first thing that you need is the hierarchy service. Luckily, this is in the default station when created. And this is where all hierarchies are going to be created. The second thing that you're going to need are all the tags and relations that are needed to make sure that the hierarchies function. And after we create all the hierarchies in the hierarchy service, the hierarchy space is where we can view these hierarchies. So remember, the hierarchy service is where we're going to be building the hierarchies, but yet the hierarchy space is where we're going to be viewing them. Now, how do we build them? Well, the first thing that I like to do is I like to talk to the customer and ask them what they are kind of envisioning for their navigation. And then after I have that conversation with the customer, I actually draw it out on paper so that way the customer and I both have an understanding of what's going on. From there, I'm going to go ahead and start to locate the objects that the customer wants and view the tags and relations that are connected to this component, whether it's a controller or a schedule or even just a set point. I will go and look for all that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to build the hierarchy in the hierarchy service. And then after each step of building the hierarchy for me, I'm going to refresh the tree node to make sure that every step of the hierarchy is being followed. Now, some tips and tricks for hierarchies that I like to talk about. The first one, regardless of what hierarchy is being used, you're always going to need a query level definition involved, even if it says true. And I know that in some things that we teach in class, or you'll see some people use it, you'll see the query that just says true. And what does that mean? It means it's returning all the components in the system. Regardless whether or not we're doing that specific one, we always need a query to resolve the hierarchy, plain and simple. How you actually order the hierarchy matters. So if you're using a group level definition or a list level definition, they need to be the topmost part of your hierarchy. And then you'll need a query level definition to sort those lists, and then a relation level definition or two to relate the components to one another. Right-clicking on components and then going to either Views, Spy Remote, or Edit Tags will show all the tags associated and or relations that are associated. That's really with more of the SPI remote to the components in the system. If you're not sure of these, always use those views first. Then, after you add a component to a hierarchy, refresh the tree node to make sure that each step is working. And when I mean the tree node, I mean the tree node in the hierarchy space, not the hierarchy service. And finally, using something called query context, which can take some time to get used to. It's going to help you further define your hierarchies by using identifiers that will hold values for a specific period of time. So, let's talk about some of the hierarchy types. Well, the first one is a group level definition. And a group level definition queries for a specific string tag and creates a level of hierarchy displaying that text string. So it'll search stations for the components with a defined tag and create a grouping container, or really a folder, in the hierarchy that is named based upon that default value in the string tag found. So if we try to do something that looks for, let's say, a building tag, right? And then we have a component that's named administration building, and then we have one that's named library. Well, the first thing it's doing is going to create a folder with those specific names, and then we can add devices underneath those folders. So that is actually how a group level definition works. It will always use a string tag. Now, a query level definition will return a query just based upon a tag. It's going to search the station, which we can limit the scope for that query for components with tags defined in that query field, such as HS:SP or HS:AHU. It's going to return all the results to match that query criteria. And again, there must be at least a query level definition in each and every hierarchy without exception. Now, the relation level definition can work with a query level definition because it populates a level of hierarchy based upon the inbound or outbound relations. So it's going to query the entire station for components yielded from the higher levels of that hierarchy, and then it actually traverses the defined relations to populate the hierarchy with components that complete that specific relationship. So n:child point or endpoint. Or even potentially like an equip ref or a building ref or any kind of relation as well. So we're going to be showing this. And finally, we have the list level and name group definition. So the list level definition creates a list and list only, and then uses the name group definition effectively as a Boolean filter for the components in that query. And it'll actually create a grouping of that. So I'm going to show you a few of those as well. One thing I really love the list level and name group definition for, especially like if I want to search for equipment by, let's say, by type, such as like a BACnet or a LAN device. Or if I want to see all the schedules and all the different schedule types, I'll use the list level and name group definition for that too. Now, finally, let's talk about query context a little bit. So query context can create more complex hierarchies. And effectively, what this does is that it creates a various level of definition. So it's possible to create one or more complex hierarchies that places items within, I'll say, a folder for higher level definitions. So for example, if we're using HS:ID, effectively what this does is that this creates a temporary storage location for a value of a particular tag. So HS:ID belongs to every single Niagara component that is added to the system, and then we can actually check, we can actually store that ID number and create a definition for it, such as building ID, floor ID, equip ID, and then it'll actually sort it out later on in the hierarchy that's created. So I like to use these for I like to use these for like a set point breakdown. So if I want to find all the set points in my system, but I need to know what system they actually belong to, that's a great one. I also use this very commonly for building relations as well, by relating the building to the floor and then the floor to the equipment, etc. So hopefully, with those tips and tricks right there, again, this is just a quick little presentation and just to talk about hierarchies. And in my next video series, it's actually going to be a two-parter. The first one is going to talk about creating all the definitions that we'll need in a tag dictionary, and we're going to go across 3 tag dictionaries for that. And then the follow-up to that will actually be creating those hierarchies. And I think we're going to do about 9 or 10, and I hope that those hierarchies give you great value. A couple of them are just showing what they are, and while they may not be as useful, I'm going to modify them to make them even more useful. So I thank you for your time and have a great day, and I will catch you later.